Today we have Boaz Gilad, lead on WECAN, performance innovator, author, and entrepreneur. Boaz, you started as a paratrooper in the Israeli army and moved to New York, later on led real estate companies successfully, and now run the Zenith Clubhouse, a program designed for high achievers seeking to elevate their lives and businesses. You also wrote the book Zenith Code, which offers a blueprint for achieving extraordinary results across many areas of life. And you host the podcast Unmasked, talking about personal and professional growth. Thank you for being here. Thank you for talking to us about your story and insights today. I would love to start by you explaining what the Zenith Clubhouse is exactly.
Sure. So first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm really thrilled to talk to you and your audience. Okay, to really simplify what Zenith Clubhouse is that I come from business. So I ran a decent sized company for 20 years. I took it public. I ran a public company for almost 7 years. And um, when I published my first book, which was a real estate book, I had a chance to travel and talk to thousands literally of people and do workshop, etc. And what I found is I found this fascinating phenomena where I could walk into a room after a while, after running it for a long time, and I can kind of smell the top performers in the room. So, like 80% of the room, we can go further into it, but 80% of the room were like very excited and very inspired, but they didn't do much, right? And then 20% were top performance. So I got fascinated by the top performers, and I said, okay, let me work with them because they deliver, they have this like high level of integrity. But here's the fascinating thing I found. I found that there's a disconnect between being a top performer in one area of your life
Mm,
and implementing in another area of your life. And that's
right.
where basically the Zenith Clubhouse is I work with companies, individuals, workshop, etc., to bring the muscles, one developed
Mm,
in one area of their lives, into another one,
right.
to really
Amazing.
simplify it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what about the book, Zenith Code? What do
Yeah.
you
So,
want the readers to know, to learn?
okay, the book came out of my workshop because I led those workshops
Mm,
and people came back to me and said, that's great. How can I follow up? Or how do I do it? I want to give it to my significant other. I want to give it to my employee. And I said, I guess I got to create a workbook. So when I sat down to write it, uh, what was in mind for me was something like The Artist's Way. If you
mm,
know the book, it's an old book
yes.
by now. I think
Yeah.
probably 30 years old or
Yeah.
even more.
At least,
But I
yeah.
remember when in my 20s, I'm now 54. In my 20s, I used the book a few times. Every time I was in transition on a crossroad, and I wanted to do that. So I wrote the Zenith Code as a workbook with the
Mhm.
intention of actually taking it when you are either want to elevate your performance, you're stuck, you're in a plateau, you get bored, or you get frustrated, you cannot pierce through the next level, and you do the work, and then with a book, and then you put it aside, and then a few years later, or in another area of your life, you take the book back, and then you erase all the answers, and you redo it, and that's how I wrote it.
And Boaz, talk to us about your podcast. What makes you motivated to do this podcast? What are the takeaways that you have from doing it for a while and talking about those personal and professional growth points?
So I'll tell you that the podcast came also. It's first of all, you and I know that when someone chooses to be a coach or in my case, a performance coach, you have to work on multiple levels or multiple platforms.
Yeah.
And so I write a weekly article for Substack. I have the
Mm,
podcast, I have the book, all that stuff, right? But the reason why I decided to do this podcast, it's because I found that especially young people, but not only, have a very, um, uh, I would say accurate, no, no, I would not even, I would say weird, actually, a weird relationship to success. and they think that success is linear.
Mm.
So you accomplish X and then you climb to the next level, then you do X plus, and then you move to Y, etc. And I has gone through huge failures and huge successes, said, look, life is a roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
Life is not a linear growth. And when the reason we call it unmask is because we want to unmask that myth that
Yeah.
people have about success.
Yeah.
And I bring people from different fields, from musicians to politicians to business people, and speak with them about their failures, which is a very uncomfortable conversation because I think as a
Mm.
culture, we are, especially the American culture, it's all about like show success, social success, never speak
Yeah.
about failure. And I can tell you, and every successful person I know who's honest, in a moment of honesty, they
Mm.
will tell you, I have learned much more and have grown much more during and after my failures than for my successes. So for me,
Definitely.
it's really about unmasking, and it's not just in the podcast. The podcast is just an opportunity. Is
Mm.
let's talk about failing because failing is fascinating,
Yeah.
and failing is important, and it's an integral part of your growth.
Yeah. So talk to us about the failures that made you into who you are today.
Oh, we can spend 10 hours talking about my failures. But I'm actually, it maybe sound weird, but I'm proud of my failures because I'm in a place now where I'm clear that the failures I've experienced made me who I am, made me
Mm.
smarter, more cautious, more risk taker, more
Mm.
sophisticated. Look, I think the headline failures, if someone Googles my name, I ran a public company that completely collapsed. You know,
Right.
so I was riding high and I was doing very, very well financially and was known and whatever. And I was on the cover of New York Times business section. And I was quoted in the Wall Street Journal many times. I was an expert, right?
Mm.
And I went through a cash challenges in my business, and I had what's called a hustle takeover when
Mm-hmm.
three funds that saw an opportunity came and bought as much out of the company as possible and pushed me out.
Yeah.
And not only that they pushed me out, the entire company, they miscalculated,
Mm.
and the entire company collapsed. We
Wow.
had to go through bankruptcy. We had to go through all my
Mm.
assets, like everything was gone, right? Like you wake up one day and literally have nothing. So that's a huge failure, right?
Wow.
And it was difficult and challenging, and I feel very comfortable speaking about it. I speak about it
Mm.
very often
Mm.
because, and look, I'm not saying that I'm happy it happened, right? I mean, but I've learned so much from it. I have the privilege now to run a business I absolutely love, and I
Mm.
only pursue what I'm really passionate about because of that failure.
Yeah.
Where when I was in my business, I had gold handcuffs.
Mm.
They were really nice gold handcuffs, but they were
Mm.
handcuffs.
Mm.
So that's just one example
Yeah.
of my failures. But I can spend 2 minutes on my successes, and I can spend 2 hours speaking about my failures.
Yeah. Boaz, talk to us a little bit about those points that you think got you to where you are today, not just failures. What made you the resilient person and the excited person that loves to support people on their journey?
Hmm. It's an interesting question because I think it's a combination of many things. First of all, resilience. You said resilience. So look, there's a few things that are, I would say, baked into the system. I grew up in Israel. I came
Yeah.
here when I was 21.
Mm.
So Israelis are known to be tough. I served in the army, um, and etc. So I think that part of like kind of, and also as an immigrant, coming to a country without a
Hmm.
language, without thing, it makes you tougher, more driven, more hungry than I think and again, I'm really generalizing, but immigrants have an image of people work very hard too because we come from nothing, right? So,
Yeah.
so I came, I had a suitcase, and I went to school. Like
Mm.
and I think that's definitely helped. I think the other thing that helped was that I was an actor till I was 29 years old. I studied
Mm.
philosophy in college. I never
Mm.
studied business. But I was an actor, and one of the things that you learn, and I speak often with parents who their kids are in the arts and especially in acting, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, it's such a tough life, and I don't want my kids to." And I can't tell you the amount of benefits I received from it because
Mm.
one of the things that is again baked into the system is when you go to an audition, you know. You hear the word no 90 times, and then the word maybe 5 times, and the word yes twice,
Yeah.
because you constantly you're like, you're too short, you're too tall, you're not the right look, you have an accent, you don't have an accent, you're not good enough an actor, you're great. So I think one of the things that made me very resilient is I learned very early that when people say no to me, they say there's two things. One is they don't say to me personally. They just say no to the situation.
Hmm.
Okay. So, and which lead me to another thing, which is no can be no today, but not no tomorrow. Right?
Absolutely.
Right now it's not. So I think that made me very resilient. So this with business and living in New York, and New York is, look, New York is um and I think Stefan, you're in London, right? So like the
Yeah.
big cities, like there's a need to be rougher, a little bit tougher in the big
Mm.
cities. And I love it. I mean, New York is not easy. It's fascinating, it's exciting, but it's not easy. For me, that's something I thrive on.
Yeah. Yeah. And rejection is definitely something that breeds a little resilience and sort of this, yeah, understanding that it's not personal.
Yes, and look, resilience is a critical part of anything you're going to do, whether it's business or dating or,
Mm.
everything you're going to do has a rejection part of it. And if you take it personally, what's going to happen is, first, look, we all take it personally. We have emotions,
Yeah.
but over time, you develop, first of all, the intellectual understanding that it's not personal.
Mm.
And the second thing is, it may be not a fit. So even if it's personal, like you're dating someone and they say, well, I don't want to see you anymore, it's very personal, right? I'm not saying that you be like, move on, right? But isn't it thrilling that you heard now versus after being married for 5 years that it's the wrong person? So,
Yeah.
so I think there's almost excitement about understanding that the path to winning to winning a game you want to play, whatever the game is, whether it's
Yeah.
like great relationship or anything, whatever it is, it gives you opportunity to develop what you really, a clearing about what's really important to you.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, so what is it like to be in the people's business? What are your main learnings in supporting people to, you know, elevate their experiences, their self-development, their business development?
First of all, and there's no sarcasm in what I'm saying. I must, and I love it, okay? I must wake up every morning and fall in love with humans.
Hmm.
Because if you're in the people business, as you call it, if you don't love the people, it's going to be impossible for you to serve them.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I made that big, big shift in my career from business to what I'm doing now is because I wanted to make an impact.
Yeah.
So the first thing is like the constant um, coming from love, coming from a commitment for people to be as extraordinary as they want to be. So, as a performance coach, look,
Hmm.
I'm not here to make you do something you don't want to do. I'm here to make sure you get the result you want if you truly are interested in the results.
Hmm.
So, and then that means that you'll be challenges, but I'm not here to convince you or tell you what great life looks like, because who the hell I to tell you what your great life will look like? But when you and I get really clear, when I get really clear with a client or with a group of people about what's important to them and what they want to have in their life, then my job is to build the infrastructure
Yeah.
for them to win and
Hmm.
remove any obstacles or blocks on the path to what they want.
And find the blind spots, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And look, there's individual blind spots, right? And also there's a lot of like I said earlier, myths. I'll give
Mm.
you just one example. One example, which is always fascinates me, is people think that to be successful, you need to be inspired.
Mm.
And I think inspiration is one of the great but also dangerous thing. Why do I say that? Because I constantly say to people that inspiration is like sugar. it's kind of you get a hype, you're like very excited, but then the sugar drops really fast, right?
Yeah.
And I saw over the years working with so many people, and like especially through the workshops, etc., is that like we spoke earlier about the 80% of people who are, not really, it's because they are inspirational junkies. They go
Mm,
from one course to the other, they buy another book, and they're looking for this thing. They don't understand that inspiration is great to start with, but it's not what's going to last in the long marathon.
yeah.
You need commitment, you need
Yeah.
tools, you need like
Yeah.
to really be responsible to your blind spot and go beyond them to get the results. And some people are just, the moment inspiration is gone, they stop working. So that's just one more thing that is people business. We have to be aware that inspiration is important to start with, but it's definitely not sufficient. It's a myth to think that you need it all the time.
Yeah. So, do you have sort of your top advice you can give to anyone younger listening on how to, you know, go a little bit beyond your limits, move beyond your limits?
So look, I said it earlier. I don't know what are your limits. I just know that you can go way beyond it.
Mm,
So one of the things I spend a lot of time with and on with people, especially younger people, is for them to get really, really clear about what's important to them.
mm,
Because we have this, I would say, tug of war between what's really important to us and what society says that is important to us. And it is not my place or anyone's place except for you to decide what's important to you. So many times I will start to work with someone and I will hear that they say, "Oh, I want to be very rich." I'm just saying, stupid example,
mm,
okay? But then when you have to sort of scratch the surface and you go further and further in, you realize it is not what's important to them. They're not willing. Look, either they say it's important to them and they live in la la land.
mm,
They don't understand that it's going to take a lot of work and focus and willing to fail again and again until you get there. That's one thing, right? But many times it's an inherited conversation. They heard from their parents, they heard from
mm,
someone else, they see it on social media, they think they need that. But when you see, kind of dive in and see what's really important to them, what's important to them is to have a balance in life or hang out with their friends or have an amazing relationship that they can really invest their time in their little kids or even before that in their romantic relationship. So the moment we get clear about what's important to you, then we can do the work. So
yeah,
one of the first, like you said, what's kind of like a top tip. A top tip is like, let's
get
get really
clear.
brutally honest about what's
Mm,
truly important to you, not what people say around you that you should like.
yeah. And where do we go from there?
Well, when you are clear about what's important to you, the next obvious question is, are you willing to do the work
Mm,
to get to where you are? And again, that's completely okay to say I'm not, to be honest with yourself. Look, if you want to play for the NBA,
yeah.
okay? If you want to be the top of the top of basketball players in the world, that requires obsession
Mm,
with your technique, with your body, with your team, with the coach. Obsession, right? Those people, they live, they breathe, they do everything from a young age to be an NBA. By the way, it doesn't guarantee that obsession doesn't guarantee you a spot in the NBA, but it's the
absolutely.
minimal needed thing. You can be like, oh, I'm playing in the afternoon once a week and assume you're going to be in the NBA. It doesn't matter how talented you are. So, next question to ask is, are you truly committed to do the work? And again, if you truly commit to the work, then we can go further in and say,
Mm,
is the structure around you there?
mm,
What are the blind spots? And then we build a 3 months program when basically, then I'm becoming like quote unquote your sport coach. I
yeah.
don't deal with emotions. I respect emotions.
Mm,
I give it space. But when you think about my style, it's more like a sport coach. I said, look, Stephanie, give me 10 push-ups. I don't care how you feel about it. Like I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a
yeah.
therapist. I'm not
Yeah.
about,
Yeah.
I'm not, I'm about, you need to give me 10 push-ups because you want to get into shape.
Yeah.
Don't care about how you feel about it. But it's
Yeah.
only after you and I are clear that you're someone who wants to be in top shape.
Yeah. I feel it's really hard in this day and age for a lot of, leaders in different industries to A, function in these ever-changing times, and B, to sustain their success in a rapid transformation, technological transformation, but also cultural transformations in a world that seems um, less linear than we thought even a little while ago. So, what advice can you give them?
Well, I will first of all challenge your assumption for a second, just for the fun of it,
Mm,
right? So I'm not sure, and again, I'm not saying I'm right. We're having a discussion here, but I'm not sure that the current challenges are different than challenges in the past. They are different, right? But there's always going to be a change, right? For
mm,
example, I'll give you just really simple example. If you and I work with a brilliant, powerful woman in 1950, we will have to work very, very, very hard for her to pierce through that concrete ceiling. It wasn't a glass ceiling,
definitely.
concrete ceiling as a woman, right? And now women, there's still some issues, but overall, if you're highly talented and hardworking,
Mm,
you can become a CEO of a company as a woman. It's not an issue, right? Or it's less of an issue. I don't want to dismiss anyone's struggle, right? But so yes, I'm dealing with AI and I might be replaced tomorrow morning by AI. That's the current challenge. But you were dealing with, look, how lucky we are. If we were born in 1920, you're between two biggest wars in, the First World War and the Second World
absolutely.
War. Like there's always going to be challenges. I think that the key is to have this ability to move from flexibility
Mm,
to strength. And if you
hmm.
have them both, you can excel.
Yeah.
And it's very challenging because sometimes if you're too flexible, you become malleable. It
Mm,
becomes too hard. You don't have this strength, this kind of like concrete foundation, right? And one of the things is the ability to develop the your feet in the ground, concrete steel structure, right? And at the
mm,
same time, understand that the world is constantly changing. Today is AI, which is huge impact. I think we're going into a world that's going to be completely different than 10 years ago.
yeah.
And 30 years ago, it was, some level of racism sometimes, or
Mm,
judgment, or limitations. There's, I try to constantly practice looking at the opportunity versus the risks and the
yeah.
challenges, because the risks and challenges are always going to be there and they're always going to change the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Boaz, so what would you say is your main motivator?
I think the biggest one is to make a difference. It
Mm,
really is. Like I'm constantly looking, whether I'm teaching at universities right now, writing the book, doing the podcast, working with clients. I want to look, I want to get to a place to in the end of my life, whether it's in 50 years or in 5 minutes, I want to be exhausted. And I'm not saying exhausted like the negative thing, but I'm saying exhausted like all my resources was squeezed out of me.
hmm.
And that's a huge motivation for me. I
Yeah.
literally wake up in the morning, say, how can I make an impact? And I don't know
Mm,
how long the impact is going to be. And I'm not 9 years old. Again, I'm 54 years old. I think I have many, I'm very healthy. Like I work out, I take care of myself. But you never know. Life is going to change. Like I can, ride my bike this afternoon and boom, something happens, I'm done, right? So I think my biggest motivator is like how many people I can impact and touch on the journey, how long the journey is going to be.
yeah. Yeah. I
And I
love
hope
it.
it's not too spiritual of a statement, but
No,
really
I
is my
love what you
drive.
said. I feel
Yeah.
exactly the same.
Yeah.
So, what does success look like for you when you work with your clients?
Mm. So, first of all, success can look two different ways, right? So, the most important way is that my client gets two things. They get one, results. I'm
Hmm.
very result oriented.
Yeah.
So, if it's not about you feeling good, and I'm not saying you shouldn't feel good. I'm thinking feeling good is amazing, right? But people come to me when they actually want something. And then we get really clear about what you want, right? So one is somewhere in the area of what you thought you want, okay? Because it's never turned out, when I was in real estate, I used to show Excels to my investors and it'd say, let's just say 24% a year return, right? And I used to tell them, you will never get this number. It's either going to be better or it's going to be worse. But so when someone says to me, I want $1 million of revenues in my company in the next quarter, I said, fine, it's probably not going to be a million. It might be $900,000, it might be $1.4 million. But when they are touching success, here's the benefit. It's not about the $1 million in revenues for their company. It's about them experiencing themselves as winners.
Mm.
That's when you start to develop the muscles to be a top performer. It's not about failing or succeeding because I guarantee you, if you take a big game on, you will be losing sometimes
Yeah.
and many times sometimes. All right. But if you start to relate to yourself as a top performer, then you can have that flexibility we spoke about earlier when you go back and forth between success and failure because the big picture is still there, right? So
Mm.
one element for me is literally saying, oh, I want to get this, I want to get that amazing relationship, I want to get that 30 pounds less, I want to get that business that's thriving, and we can get to that proximity, that area. And the second thing is joy. Like when my some of my clients do not succeed getting the result they wanted. It's not exactly, they get a little less or they get much more, and it's like there's a quantum leap, but they have joy around it and have this, I would say the word transformation around relationship to failing and success.
Mm.
And the best thing about top performing is that it spills over. What do I mean by that? If like you and I work on, let's just say I'm just choosing really simple example for this conversation. Let's say that you're not happy with how you look and feel health-wise and fitness. And you take that for 3 months with me. It's not going to stop only in health or fitness. I guarantee you, I literally guarantee you that your relationship is going to change, your business is going
Mm.
to change, because being a top performer is a state of mind. Being a top performer is a muscle. And the moment you develop that muscle, it will spill over to other areas. And that's where the fun and the joy and the excitement happens to be
Yeah.
me and of course to the clients. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand completely. So what what do you feel has been sort of the riskiest thing you ever decided to do? Was pivoting into
In
this
life,
different in life? Yeah.
look, I took so many risks in life. I don't see them as bad. I see them as an opportunity to grow. So I
Mm.
can literally like, look, coming to the US with basic English and just a dream to be an actor in New York and going to
Mm.
grade school, acting school, was a risk. Um, going to real estate when I studied philosophy in college is a huge risk because I had to fake it in the beginning. I didn't know anything about business. I used to go, they don't exist as much anymore, but I used to go to Barnes and Noble, the big bookstore, and used to sit there for hours and read books about business and real estate because I knew nothing. I really knew nothing. I just wanted to replace my waiting table job because I, like any actor in New York, I waited tables,
Yeah.
I wanted to replace my waiting table job with more of a stable thing. So that was a risk. Taking my company public was a huge risk.
Mm.
But it was so exciting. It was so challenging. I had to learn new things. Look, in the universe, we either expand or we shrink. And I say the universe because it's not a human phenomenon. Actually, the word status quo invented by humans. It doesn't exist. When you look at planets or galaxies or a flower,
Mm.
the universe, everything either expand or shrink. You never stay the same.
It's
So
physics. Mm.
yeah, so the question, do you want to expand or do you want to shrink? I always
Mm.
want to expand.
Definitely.
So risks, yes, but part of expanding is taking risks.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Listening to your life story, there's been a lot of pivoting, and that is taking risks. And so, thank you for explaining. And I'm wondering how you feel about pivoting, encouraging clients to pivot. These are really difficult moments and surely much better lived with a coach by your side.
Yes, look, it's only difficult if you see the world a particular way.
Mm,
If you are in the risk management business or state of mind, then absolutely change pivoting is a risk, and therefore you should get anxiety and scare and all that stuff around it, right?
mm.
But I'm in the opportunity management business, not in the risk management business.
Yeah,
If you want to go to risk management business, you should be a banker.
yeah.
And again, no judgment. It's just a different one. So one of the first questions, the conversation I'm having with the client is that, do you want to keep things as they are? And if that's the case, you should not hire me. I'm the
Absolutely.
wrong guy for you, right? But if you look at life, like just the conversation we just had, is expanding or shrinking. You want to expand. I am the engine, the jet engine that you can attach yourself to take you to the next level. And will it be scary? Absolutely. Will be moments of breakdowns and things gonna go? Absolutely. But look, do you want extraordinary or you want ordinary? You want ordinary? You don't need me. You want extraordinary? And look, one of the things that I always get fascinated by is when people tell me I don't need a coach. Again, I don't need your business. It's all good. I'm not trying to sell you as the client the business, right? But I said, okay, but you just told me you want to be extraordinary.
Mm,
Show me one extraordinary person who doesn't have a coach, whether in
totally.
sport, in business, in music. I mean, Yo-Yo
Mm,
Ma has a coach. I mean, I mean, like people who have mastered their music abilities. Every person has a coach because you become extraordinary when you realize that there's next level that you need help and there's blind spot and things stops you. So again, if you want ordinary, good for you. But if you want extraordinary, it will take a village, and I can be part of that team.
yeah, definitely. Boaz, so what are your plans and goals?
Take it a day at a time in the best way. I don't look, I constantly do new things. Like I'm starting to teach again at the university, undergrads and grad school, just for the fun of it. And I'm working on a new business plan for something different. Uh, I really don't have something specific that I want to accomplish because so many times I was sitting in a particular place and I said, that's where I want to get to. And on the path up the hill, I realized it's not actually something I want.
Mm,
So I stopped taking huge commitments and like 5 years from now, I don't know. I'm taking 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. So that's my goal. My goal is to be fully used, fully being a source and a resource for other people. And then, look, I might talk to you in 2 years and I will do something else. For now, I absolutely love what I do. And I'm really privileged that I have the opportunity to reinvent myself on my third or whatever career.
yeah, yeah, I love that. So, what takeaways would you like our listeners to have from your story, Boaz, if you had to sum it up?
I think the biggest takeaway is life is precious and
Mm,
fragile.
mm,
And I would hate, or you would hate more than me because I will never meet you if you're one of the listeners, right? If something happens tomorrow morning, if a bus hits you, for you as the last thought to say, oh, shoot, I should have done X, Y, and Z,
mm,
right?
mm,
I would love you to be like, wow, what a great journey. I mean, it ended before I expected, but what a great journey. So if I can give one thing to your listeners, I would say just pause for a minute and ask yourself, am I living a life that I love, a life that is challenging me, a life that gives me opportunity to impact other people's? And if not, do something about it. And it doesn't have to be complete transformation of like, you leave your relationships and you move to another. No, no, no. Take one area of your life and say, I'm going to take on to start with, and just say, I'm going to transform this area. I'm going to bring true challenge and joy to this area. So I'm proud of it. So I keep on growing in that. And then see, it might be enough for you. Some people work in a local garden, community garden, and kind of plant, fruits and that makes them really happy. And that's wonderful. Again, we're not here to judge. Whatever the level you want to play, you might play in the NBA, you might play in a basketball team every Thursday evening in your local, community center. Whatever makes you happy, but do that. Don't let time fly and then suddenly you get older and you have all those challenges. Look, I'll give you just one little thing. My daughter, my oldest, I have three kids. My oldest finished college and she was naturally growing up in New York, going to a great college. She kind of the pressure, the conversation is okay, get a job right away.
Mm,
And we had a conversation about do something that you'll never forget and never regret. And so she's right now in Malaysia. She's backpacking the Far East for 8 months.
mm,
What a great opportunity to do when you're 23. I
definitely.
mean, that
Amazing.
like the people she met in Vietnam and in Laos. I mean, she will go and live. So I want each person to have that in their lives, whether ongoing, once a week, or every day, or but that's kind of like the takes. Take something, take a challenge, push the envelope, and life is short.
Yeah. Amazing, Boaz. I think this is a perfect finish, and I couldn't have said it better. And I'm so grateful for your story and your advice for our listeners.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.